Harry's Wife, part 79.16. Timber. Why is Harry's wife getting fatter? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Now let me make it clear, this is not going to be a video hurling gratuitous insults at the Duchess of Sussex about her recent weight gain. Just because there's some added timber, a bit of extra wood, because she looks a little bit thick around the middle, that she's perhaps got a little bit chubby, a little bit porky, we're not here to engage in labelling and insults about her weight. People gain weight, others do not. There are others who maintain a stable weight through weight management. Basically, a combination of watching what one eats and ensuring that there is sufficient and regular exercise to maintain a particular look. For some people, they remain skinny. For others, they remain ripped and buff. For others, athletic. Then, of course, there are those that consume more calories than they expend, and therefore they gain weight. Those, perhaps, who get the muffin top or the dad bod, and then those who get fat, and then those who become obese. It isn't a simple formula. Too many calories in and not enough expended, weight is gained. Of course, people gain weight more easily than others. There are others who, of course, who remove weight and lose it faster than others. And, of course, there are multi-billion-pound industries surrounding all of that. The fact is that there has been a weight gain. It's apparent. But why is that? Well, part of it is needing to understand, first of all, the concept of the school and cadre. Ardent students of my work know that I categorise narcissists into a variety of sub-schools, starting with the scummy lower lesser, all the way up to the brilliant and amazing and magnificent ultra moi. The schools are a guide to behaviours, what you can expect in terms of how the narcissist will function and operate. I also deal with the cadre. The cadre is about preferences, and there are 4 cadres. The first, the victim cadre. This is a narcissist that has a prevailing victim mentality greater than the usual. All narcissists have a victim mentality, but those of the victim cadre have a victim mentality that is far greater. They essentially want to be mothered or fathered. They need a nursemaid, somebody that will run around after them, catering to them, doing their laundry, picking up after them, giving them medication. They invariably utilise feigned illness or actual illness, feigned injury or actual injury, feigned helplessness or actual helplessness for the purpose of gaining those prime aims. We then have the cerebrals, the boffins, the clever clogs, the T-file heads. These individuals achieve the prime aims primarily through the utilisation of their brain power. Not particularly interested in the material things in the world, they are more focused on exercising their actual or perceived brilliance through brain power. They have an interest in research, the arts, literature, music, fine art, antiques, certain collectibles, an interest in politics, world events, current affairs, and so forth. And therefore, in the circumstances, the cerebral achieves the prime aims through those particular aspects. Then we come to the elite. The elite is an amalgam of both somatic and cerebral. Generally speaking, the elite doesn't tend to be maxed out in either of the category, but has a significant proportion of both. So whereas you might have a cerebral who is exceptionally clever and a somatic that's ripped and buff, you may find an elite that is very clever and athletic. Of course, you could find one which is both extremely clever and ripped and buff, but more usually, being an amalgam of the two schools, they're slightly lower on the scale than a pure cerebral or a pure somatic. Then, what about the somatics? The somatics are the individuals that are preoccupied with looks and appearance, by clothing, by going to the gym, by wearing expensive clothes, having various potions and lotions and perfumes and fragrances, by having a flash car, living in a huge house that's well appointed, being seen at the best restaurants and clubs and night spots in round town. An individual that has a preoccupation with money, that likes to travel, might be into adrenaline sports. is hypersexualized. Now, it's important to understand that not all somatics are going to have every single somatic trait that exists, and that they exist par excellence. No. A higher echelon narcissist, for instance, greater or ultra, who is somatic, is likely to be very good looking, be wealthy, dresses well, lives in a very decent house that's well appointed, is hypersexualized, drives a good and flash car, likes to dine at expensive places, and so forth. A lower lesser somatic may well be hypersexualized, thinks he's really good looking but isn't, and the delusion of his narcissism causes him to negate the fact that he has a balding pate, a beer belly, and rotten teeth. He still thinks he's Mr. Lover man that enables him to pursue those people for the purposes of gaining the prime aims. Some somatic narcissists have a huge preoccupation with money, but they don't have any. Some somatic narcissists are hugely generous with their money. Others are tight as a gnat's chuff. In other instances, some narcissists who are somatics don't have expensive tastes, but they nevertheless are hypersexualized. They have a preoccupation with money. They are interested in somatic pursuits, going to the gym, travel, and so forth. So, just because a narcissist is somatic, it doesn't mean that they're going to sort of hit 100% on all of the somatic traits. You need to keep that in mind. You see, that helps you understand part of what is going on with Harry's wife. Many of you, of course, have seen the various outfits that she's worn over time, and particularly arising from the quasi-royal tour of New York, most notably the Bouncing Berry of Harlem, or the Chairman Mao outfit, and the washing machine stroke tea cozy outfit that was worn at the vaccine event. Some of you have obviously questioned, does she not look in a mirror before she steps out in that outfit? Well, of course she does. And therefore you think to yourself, I can see that it doesn't fit, it doesn't suit her, and she looks a mess. Doesn't she? The answer is no. The narcissism blinds her to the shortcomings. She thinks it really suits her. She doesn't stand there and think, oh my goodness me, I look like Chairman Mao, but it doesn't matter, I'll still go out anyway. She thinks she looks good. So, with Harry's wife, she, of course, fits within the somatic cadre. I will let you know that. And we see that in much of her behaviour. One anticipates that during the golden period she's hypersexualised, that there's plenty of spicy poontang that was utilised to draw in Prince Harry. Of course, there are rumours of her being a yacht girl, which would be commensurate with hypersexualised behaviour, if, of course, that's accurate. We know that she likes expensive tastes. She lives in a multi-million-pound mansion in Monte Shitshow with 27,000 operating toilets. She wears expensive jewellery. She wears designer clothing. She doesn't travel commercial a lot of the time, preferring to fly by private jet, and the hypocrisy that's associated with that. She likes to go to the best places, be seen with the right people, the beautiful people. And therefore, as a somatic narcissist, you will be thinking to yourself, okay, HG, I get all of that. But why then is it that she looks like a dog's breakfast many of the times, and she dresses up? Not always, but often. Why is it that her hair is always a mess? She doesn't look stylized. Why is it the skin looks greasy? And why is it, if she's a somatic narcissist, that she's piled on the pounds? Well, as I've explained, the somatic narcissist doesn't always hit 100% with all those attributes. And, of course, she doesn't necessarily see that there's any problem. Her narcissism blinds her to the fact that the Chairman Mao outfit didn't look very good at all. She thinks that she does look good. She doesn't see that there's a problem with her hair, or her skin, or whatever it might be. And, of course, we understand that she may well have a plastic surgery. There are rumours about rhinoplasty, which again is commensurate with a somatic narcissist. But for her, some of those somatic traits operate through delusion. And those of you be thinking, well, if she's somatic, she would, of course, ensure that she would be exercising, getting herself on the old hamster wheel to ensure that she looks good. Now, there are some individuals that suggest, well, actually this weight is part of the postpartum weight gain that occurs following a pregnancy. And of course, all women gain weight when they're pregnant. Naturally, they're carrying somebody inside them, and they tend to eat more, with the consequence that not only are they carrying more weight because there's a baby which has its own weight inside them, but they gain weight because their calorific intake is greater, and they may well be exercising less. Thereafter, of course, there are some who never get back to their pre-baby weight. Others, the weight drops off them faster than a surgeon's knife could do it. And others takes a little bit of time, and they have perhaps the ongoing battle, weight going up and down, yo-yoing. In the instance of Harry's wife, I don't see that this is postpartum weight. It looked to me, on photographs previous, although of course they may well have been doctored, that there was a weight loss and there has been a more recent weight gain. Why is that? From looking at earlier photographs of Harry's wife, she has always been relatively slim. You wouldn't call her skinny, and you certainly wouldn't call her fat. However, she doesn't strike me as someone who engages in excessive exercise. I don't recall seeing much footage of her a la Princess Diana, Princess of Wales, returning from the gym as she was regularly seen. We haven't seen shots of her out and about jogging. There's been occasionally seeing her walking, of course the infamous instance of her walking with the 2 dogs and the suspected doll. But she doesn't strike me as someone that engages in a lot of treadmill pounding. And again, the muscle definition that you see on her is more that that's just natural, as opposed to honed by a lot of exercise. And therefore, her weight gain doesn't strike me as a consequence of her dropping off with the exercise. I don't think that she's a particularly habitual exerciser, but instead, she's been eating more. She's been chowing down on the Doritos and the donuts. Perhaps she's been roasting quite a few chickens and eating the skin also. But why might that be? Well, of course, some of you may think, well, who gives a rat's ass? She wants to eat a bit more, she can, and indeed, she can. But to enable you to understand more with regard to the fact that you're dealing with a narcissist here, there is actually a reason linked to her narcissism as to why she'll be eating more. As you know, one of the things that we require as narcissists is the prime aims: control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. And when we have a threat to our control, our narcissism responds by causing us to assert control either directly, indirectly, or through withdrawal. And our narcissism directs us through a variety of measures, about which I've spoken extensively, for the purpose of ensuring that fuel is obtained. Harry's wife has been suffering repeated criticisms and challenges. Things haven't been going as well for her as they might once have been doing. As I've spoken about in parts passing, the tide has turned and the downward spiral has occurred. There was the Barmer birthday bummer. There was the fact that nobody really took up with any great enthusiasm the 40-40 challenge. There's the fact that the royal family have been getting in some rather decent rabbit punches of their own. There have been snubs, events failing, and the repeated and continued criticism. Now, of course, all of that does provide fuel, because it's challenge fuel where it's directed towards her. Of course, a snub is wounding, being ignored is wounding. But the challenges mean that although she's been receiving fuel, the sense of control has been threatened. But also, it seems to me that her fuel matrix has started to recede. Harry will, of course, continue to provide fuel, but it seems to me that the likes of Oprah and the Barmers and other supposed friends in the celebrity network have started to distance themselves a little from her. And of course, although she kept popping up through the PR campaign about which I've spoken, she had been less prominent publicly as she had previously. And therefore the fuel levels that she had been enjoying, shall we say, pre-birth of Lilibet, were much higher. And in a few months since that, they have been reduced. Not to the point of a fuel crisis, because she's always been able to get fuel, but a combination of the repeated challenges that she's experienced by way of wounding, which reduces fuel levels, and an overall shrinking of her fuel matrix, not to a critical situation, not by any means, but it's still reduced slightly, or notably, has meant that her fuel levels have dipped. Now, some narcissists bump along with this. Others, the narcissism gears up all the harder to try and pull in yet more fuel. She appears to have struggled to have done that. And what can happen with certain narcissists is that the narcissism turns to a fuel substitute: narcotics, alcohol, food. I've spoken elsewhere about the substitute fueling effects of alcohol in the video Cheers, the narcissist and alcohol. I've also alluded to it with regard to narcotics. It's also the case with fuel. The feel-good factor, what people would describe as comfort eating for anybody who isn't a narcissist, replicates a similar sensation to being fueled. And because, as a consequence of the behaviours that have resulted in her fuel level shrinking somewhat, has meant that she has been turning basically to food, either junk food, some kind of, or eating more than usual, so that she has gained some weight. Now, she's not turned into a massive blimp, not at all, but there has been a noticeable weight gain. And so she's got fatter because her narcissism has caused her to eat more as a form of fuel substitute, arising from the shrinkage of her fuel matrix as a consequence of the many recent setbacks that have occurred. Now, of course, part of weight gain is also attributed to genetics, but of course, action can be taken about that by weight management. Eat less, exercise more. She hasn't been doing those things. She has eaten more, as I've explained, because it's posed as a fuel substitute. And therefore, in those circumstances, what you've witnessed with regard to this noticeable weight gain by Harry's wife is food has been indulged in as a substitute for fuel, and that is because her fuel matrix has suffered shrinkages of late because of the numerous setbacks and challenges that have occurred. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.